Welcome to episode 1
Yes.
of our new show. She is Lais, and I am the coach, and that is the name of our show.
First of all, if there's ever been a time for personal bubble, this is
We will always stay true to what we do. What you're doing is going to get you to the next place.
Right.
Throw the list away. It's only a matter of time before you cave.
You can look way better than you used to.
Such a great experience.
Well, like it knows everything you've given.
Showing curiosity. What if it actually works?
I've been chopped down como persona.
100%.
An extra
You're sitting right now. Sometimes it is a member.
Welcome, everybody. Peace out, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to Lais and the Coach. And on today's episode, we have quite the treat. We have Terrie Christine, who is intuitive energy healer, and she is the author of The Secret Power of You. Terrie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm so honored, and I'm very happy to be here.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. So I've done a ton of digging and research on some of the stuff that you do. And
Ooh.
yeah, but before we even get started, a lot of what we used to do specifically was body transformations. We would help people go from, I guess, wherever they were in the moment to where they thought they wanted to be. We'd help them lose weight, and eventually we transform that into helping people step on stage and do photo shoots and fitness transformations. But along the way, one of the things that we figured out is that even inside of those transformations, there was still some sort of identity thing that wasn't clicking. So people were losing weight, but it wasn't shifting to the other side. And a lot of times they go backwards, right? So I think that we're going to be able to uncover some of that in today's show.
Yes. I'm glad. I'm so happy you get it.
Yeah.
We still do the physical transformations, but we are aware of just how much more goes into
Yes. And it's funny, I just did a podcast right before this one, and it was about being an entrepreneur and struggles, and we went in so many different directions, but this is another avenue. So I'm so grateful that we're having it right after this other one to understand what you just brought up. It's that subconscious and what they are subconsciously struggling with to get to their end result. And I love that picture behind you. Oh, gorgeous.
Lais, and just to give you a little bit of background, so both of us have gone through different transformations. I've been coaching for 30 years, and 20 years into my career, I got Guillain-Barré syndrome, and I was totally paralyzed from literally from the face down, right? So overcoming that and learning how to do everything from walking to combing my hair all over again. As a grown man with children and married, and Lais found herself in a place where she was a mom and she kind of lost her identity, and through fitness kind of like turned it all around.
Nice.
But what we have seen is that a lot of people kind of like somewhere in the middle have found themselves a little bit lost, and people tend to call that a midlife crisis, but we tend to see it as you really didn't sit down and reevaluate what direction you were going in. But we've utilized fitness transformations as one of the modes to kind of help people get on the other side of where they're going.
Yes, I love that. Oof.
So for everybody that's listening or hearing the term intuitive energy healer for the first time, can you describe what it is that you do and kind of how you got to where you're at now?
Yeah, so I'll go back I'll go forward and then go back. So intuitive energy healing, so intuitive, it's that trusting, that inner knowing. So I utilize this shell to touch someone's energy. So meaning that when I start working with people, there's no time and space with energy. You can be remote like you and I are. I do have a private studio. And so I might feel my throat constrict. That's telling me that they may be struggling to communicate or worried about retaliation through words. So based on the longevity, I've been doing this for over 20 years. Patterns are pretty much all the same. So when I feel something, I'll go, oh, I know exactly what this is. And then I'll just share and tell and then bring it forward to their present and what it looks like. So a good example, shoulders are a perception of burden, left side mom, right side dad, or left side feminine, right side masculine. And so I am clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient. So I can see movies in my head. I can hear conversation. And the clairsentient is just knowing. So you'll hear me say, I just know, Lais. I don't care what you tell me. I can feel it.
I love it.
Yes, and it's just like that. I get super excited about my work. I do have the passion in it because it's about empowering, just like you do through the physical aspect of the body, where I do it in the subconscious, bringing it to the conscious space. So you and I meet together. And so my journey of how I ended up being where I am today is I actually did have a spiritual epiphany at the end of a 14-year relationship. I didn't want to be in the physical body anymore. I had given so much to this partner of mine, and we had 2 children, that I had nothing else left to give. And I thought, here I am. I think I'm done. Actually, I know I'm done. I walked into the bathroom, climbed on the floor, and I said, I can't physically do it. And it wasn't about me, it was about our children. But I said, you know what, God, you can do it. I'm ready, do it. And during that time of massive grief, within those few minutes as I was laying on the floor, I left my body. I was in this space of oneness. Things were just magnetized to bliss, meaning I felt I accomplished what I wanted. I let go of everything, meaning including the physical body. And I had one sentence say to me through God while I was at that state: love will come. That was all I ever wanted from him. And God told me, you'll get it. So in that state, that sense, I literally like, what? And with that, what? I felt that energy come back into my body, and I stood up and I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? Because I was 100% corporate. I wasn't living in the life that I'm living now. The next day, my entire life changed. I was drawn to get books that I'd never read before. I didn't even look, my friends, I was a single mom in a partnership relationship.
Okay.
I did not have time to read a book taking care of 2 children and another grown child. I literally didn't, and have a full-time job. But I became like a speed reader. I don't even know how it happened. I was reading 2 books at a time. They were all making sense to me. And authors like Esther Hicks, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle. I said, wow, this is amazing. There's more to life than what I was living. And then I got the strength to leave that relationship. And then I started working with masters in energy work, healing, essential oils, and just learning it. Now, some of the stuff I don't use actively, like essential oils and crystal healing and stuff like that, but I have it in my energetic backpack that I might get a flash that someone needs to use something or see something. But that's actually, that moment in time catapulted me in getting the strength to shift my mind, to shift my body, to shift sort of like what we're talking about, the body. So we're going to connect to that. I'm sure you're going to share how we can all, work this together. And then I took action, and I made things happen. And that's how I ended up being where I am. And I left my corporate job, and poof, this is my career. This is my business. This is what I do for a living.
That's incredible.
Gosh, I love that.
That's amazing. What do you like? Have you noticed that we all have like this one defining moment, or that one, I guess epiphany is a word, right? It's like you have this one moment that shifts everything, and inside of that moment you can quantum leap, exponentially, right? If you let yourself be led. Where's the block there? Like why do people maybe shy away from that?
Yes. Yes. I love that. So the perfect example is mine. So I was in this relationship for 14 years. I loved him so much that I had an empty vessel. That's all I had left. And so being raised by teenage parents, they had 3 kids by the time they were 18, and we were not triplets. So now here I am hanging on to this life sense of what I thought I wanted, with a mom and a dad and the kids and the house and all of that. And the fear that steps into most people paralyzes them. So that I don't want to, that's what they're saying, is delete, because I did. But they'll say, I don't want to leave this, and I'll do whatever it takes, literally to the point where they have nothing left. And I was at that point But and they may not have had a conversation with God. They may feel so low that now they're numbed out, drinking, substance, doing things to continue to numb, to stay in what they think they're hanging on to.
Do you think a lot of people are trying to do the work, right? Like, and don't realize that they're kind of just in this repetitive hamster wheel, like this Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
where maybe they feel like they're trying to do stuff, but it isn't really getting them anywhere, and then end up feeling like it's never going to change.
Yes, because most don't know how to start, where to start, what to even do. And then they may watch YouTube or read a book or, something where they're like, oh, I'll just watch these videos or read some books. But we're working in the subconscious space, which they're not going to remember at the age of 5 when mom was having an argument with dad and then dad left for months and then they now have a sense of abandonment. Dad may not have ever come back, or he came back and he was completely different. So now change is not good. So they'll see these things and then it will become part of the subconscious, but the subconscious is running the world currently as they're seeing things. So people, places, and things will trigger them, but then they'll say, oh, you said that, you did that. And then they'll blame what they're using their eyes and ears, when in fact, it's the subconscious that's being triggered. And then they don't understand how to put together and where it is. And that's where I come in. And that's why I'm as successful as I am, because with the superpowers of being able, and that's what I call them, being able to see what is in that subconscious through the visions that I get and the things that I'm hearing. And they're all uplifting, because I have had, religious, quote unquote, people that will attend church or read the Bible and stuff still come to me because that guidance doesn't quite get them to where they are saying they want to be, but they don't want to leave that form of guidance. So I'm just an alternative way for some people, where others embrace what I do or open to receive because they've tried other things and those other things aren't working. I get from A to Z much quicker than talk therapy to reading books, because I am working in the subconscious space.
We talk a lot about, or at least lately, we've been talking a lot about how you don't really get an instruction manual. Like, you land
For
here,
life.
you get this carbon suit, right? And you don't really have an instruction manual, but we don't even talk about it ever. Like, we never sit down to evaluate or reevaluate whether or not we're on the right path, if we're even on a path. We are, I guess sometimes we feel vibes and energy, and we'll walk in a room and you could just feel it's heavy or light. It's like, what's something that, like, a lot of people don't get about energy and
Mm-hmm.
how real it actually is.
Mm-hmm. So curiosity is also something that they can start with. But if they're rock solid saying, I don't believe it, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to just create the curiosity so they can step into seeing that there's more than just what meets the eye, right? And so when they're stepping into it, it's allowing them to say, okay, I want more than what I have. So that is a catalyst in itself. And so once they start seeing some slight changes, massive changes, it really depends on the person. So I get a lot where they're controlling the inside as well as the outside. And usually, especially when I'm seeing them face to face, when I take their arm and I'm moving their arm, it's telling me I'll hold it by the elbow to lift it up. Most people that are total in control, they're moving it for me. And I said, that's a form of control. Just let go, relax, pretend you're in a swimming pool. And then I'll go to take their arm and they're moving it before I even move it. That's a form of control. So in that space, I'll be able to tell how they're responding to certain things that I say, what they're saying, how they're acting, the shifting of their energy. But because I am so highly in tune to feelings, to structures, to how people act, that I can see it all. Where someone has to become extremely present. This is a lifestyle, my friends, as you've created your lifestyle. And then now you're seeing how the body will respond to certain things you teach it to do if they do their homework, right? And then how the body will start responding to that. It's the same thing as the subconscious space too, because as their body is starting to change and shift, they're going to start feeling better about themselves. They're going to start feeling more confident within themselves. And that's, again, the subconscious meeting the conscious space, the physical body, as you're working with it. That's why you're going to see a lot of change where people's personalities will change as well. You see, so it's that melding of the conscious, subconscious in the work you do and the work I do. But I work on the inside, you work on the outside.
I love that. What is it that you think, like, I'm trying to like formulate this question in a way that makes sense because it makes sense in my head. It's like, what is like a sign, let's say, that somebody might get of themselves that it's time for them to do this work? You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you can be deeply unhappy, like you described for you, or we
Yeah.
have our moment, right? Whether it's your rock bottom or your epiphany, but it's like for the everyday person, it's like he said, there's no manual, but we're all aware that life is, you know, comes in waves and there's ups and downs and we all have hardships and we all have
Yeah.
stresses. But maybe a person that isn't like deeply unhappy with themselves or their
Yeah.
life or their relationship, but they do feel like there's more
Yes.
or something needs to change. Like, what's a thing? Like, what do most people come to you with, or what's a, you know, a sign that?
Yes. Yes. So you said one. You said that I want to change. That's one, but they have to commit to that change. And because it can be gradual. It can be like mine, where poof, that life altering thing. A person doesn't have to have that life altering like me, where I left my body and God spoke to me. It can be this gradual, I really want more out of my job, but I've now worked it a year and I don't feel like I'm in the passion, or people are coming to me like I want to be felt. I want to be felt like value. I want to be felt like I'm doing something for others, which allows me to feel like I'm doing something for myself.
Mm.
And so they'll have to get to that state, just like in a relationship. They'll stay in a relationship until they can't anymore. So that relationship is with self.
Mm.
They'll say to themselves, I don't want to be this way anymore, or I don't want to keep attracting, or I need more clarity. And so the majority of my clients are women, but I love, you know, because we seem to be more open to different things, where men, I'm sorry, Raphael,
No, listen,
they
I'm the
like,
first one to say, like, I coach mostly women
For
also
the
because
same
for the
reason.
same reason,
yeah,
guys,
yes.
guys tend to think they know it all and never need any help, and in most cases are the most lost. But women are always more receptive to
Yes.
growth and learning and understanding.
Yes, yes. And men have that internal control because, you know, up in their upbringing, if mom, you know, or if dad or parents, guardians were saying, you know, be a man and don't cry, or, you know, some of those words that created them to see the man to see, or that boy to see, I have to do certain things to be that masculine energy. And so that's where they're like, I'm controlling my life, and the control will look like, and I'm just going to say dot, 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 because it'll look like various different ways. But it's with everyone. When the man finally comes, he'll get sometimes dragged in by the partner, or they'll say, I'm just really done. I'm done with no, you know, I've done everything from talk therapy and all the other things that I'll try anything at this point. And so I don't look at myself as the last one. I look at myself as another one, because when you're going to the doctor's not guarantee that they're going to heal whatever it is you're going to. They're going to use their knowledge from what they've learned out of the schooling and what they have seen with results of what they've done. Well, I do the same thing. However, I do it in a deeper level. I have had lots of medical personnel, from mental personnel, come to me with their client and with them. We'll say, I've gotten to a point where I can't do much more. What about you? And then I'll come in and they'll still, let's say, still go to talk therapy. I will, do my magic and tell them and show them, and then their life is changing. But whatever it is, I also give tips and tricks. So it's not just, where I put my hands on them and I hug them and they're on their merry way. It's not like that. So I will bring forth in the movie that I'm saying, and I'll tell them what's going on in the present state. And I'll say, oh, if you do this, if you say this, if you act this way, you can shift and change. And then they come back to me the next session and say, oh my God, everything you said, and I feel so much better. I told my therapist, and my therapist said, keep doing it. Or, oh my God, I finally got a breakthrough with you and me, because now I am telling the therapist the subconscious, because the talk therapy is really conscious talk, of the client saying, well, my dad used to treat me this way, and this is how I'm feeling. And it's the conscious talk, where I'm going to the subconscious of when you were 5, and I see, because I'm seeing the movie, when you're 5, I see that dad left the family unit and he never came back. So you have a sense of abandonment, and that's why you struggle with your relationships and you hang on too long. So, and that's just an example. And then the therapist was thinking that, oh, well, dad was in a relationship now years later, and wasn't pointing or picking those things up. But I mean, that's a common one, but there's much deeper ones that, here's one that's very, very common is, mom is on the phone and the child is 4 years old and she's home and she's, let's say she's drawing a picture. She goes up to mom and says, look, mom, I drew this picture for you. She's on the phone and she's like, waving the child away. I'll be right with you. And now she's finishing her picture and she goes back to mom, look, mom, and mom's still on the phone going, no, I will come to you. Well, then mom forgets because mom had to do laundry or get ready for dinner or whatever next. Mom forgets. The child now is in her room and she says to herself, I need to work harder to be seen and heard because mom is now forgetting me. Now, you know what that looks like as an adult? You're at work and you're organized, you got all your work done, and then you notice that your coworkers aren't quite, and they might be struggling. So you'll go over and you'll say, hey, you need some help? You'll help that coworker, you'll help another coworker, and you'll go home exhausted. And you're saying, why am I working harder than everyone else? It starts exactly like where they've already owned they have to work harder to be seen and heard, and it'll be interpreted as nobody's working as hard as them.
Do you think everything stems from our childhood?
Absolutely. But it doesn't have to be emotional and physical. That's the thing. I'll have clients come to me and I'll say, okay, I'm picking up a mom block. And even before I get that out, they'll say, oh no, my mom was perfect. And I said, that's even better. And I'll tell you why. Right. I had this woman who her dad was absolutely perfect, walked on water. He was an international kind of mortgage money guy who traveled the world. And when he came home, it could be months at a time. But when he came home, it was dad and daughter tied like together, peanut butter and jelly. And then dad, because he did this world thing, he would have to read the paper quite often. So once he got home, he played with her, caught up with her life. He would read the paper. And in my mind's eye, I'm like, oh my God, I could see dad reading the paper and they would play peekaboo. She would get under the paper, peekaboo, and then they would play and he would read the paper, but they would play. And so it was all this unconditional love. So now here she is as an adult. She's got partners and she says, I don't understand. I can't keep a partner. I said, really? And I said, I know what's going on. I said, you are trying to recreate the same feeling that dad gave you with the unconditional love. And I said, I bet you say to your guys, because they weren't staying very long, that when they would say, I'd love you, you'd say, really? Or really? Do you really? Or you don't text me enough. spot on. They would text her all day long. They would say, I love you. And they'd say, I don't believe you. That was her response because she wasn't feeling that absolute unconditional feeling. So she would sabotage with these comments, thinking that they would give her more and keep giving her more until she could fill that unfulfilled hole of trying to recreate that ever essence of being totally connected. She'll never do it. So she kept sabotaging and sabotaging. Dad was perfect.
That's interesting. Like inside of like even what we just said about not having instruction manual, right? It makes it challenging as a parent to figure out what the best course of action is. But then even as an adult where you have your own consciousness and beliefs, at what point do you assume responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, and
Yeah.
whether or not they're in alignment or disaligned with the version of life that you're looking for?
Yeah. So from what I heard you just say, at what point do you take ownership for your thoughts, right? Is that what
Mhm.
that's okay. So you always have to take ownership for all your thoughts. But what I'm thinking you're saying is that those thoughts could be somebody else's thoughts. Like meaning that limiting belief that comes in saying you're not good enough because dad was saying, are you using your head when you were in, you know, fourth grade and you're trying to get the 1 + 1 and you keep putting 3 and I apologize, I'm not nothing against the men, I was just because my partner did that to our youngest child and now she has self-esteem issues and she's a procrastinator because he would go over to her and say, are you using your head?
Right.
Are you thinking this through? So it would make her doubt her own thoughts, her own thinking, her own, her homework, instead of saying, let's just talk this through. And maybe putting 2 apples on the table or giving her a form of a vision. But then he would always start with, are you using your head? So that would make her think she's never using her head. She's not thinking
So then,
things through.
so then, when we go through roadblocks, right? Then there's this mind body, connection and simultaneous disconnection. So when we're going through a roadblock, is that roadblock a result of something, much deeper,
Yes.
and then it manifests on whether or not you can move forward? For example, if somebody's ill, are they not able to get past it until they get past that roadblock? Or even in our case, like if somebody's doing all the right things but not able to lose weight or transform, like is there something there holding them back that because subconsciously is stuck, they're not able to move forward?
Yes, yes, yes. So let's dive deep. This is a good one. So the body responds to the limiting beliefs. And as I was starting, like the shoulders, perception of burden. So if somebody comes to you and they're working out and they're not having any physical pain, and then all of a sudden they're like, Raphael, my shoulder is really killing me. This left shoulder, I don't know. It must have been us working out. Then ask them, what were you thinking in the last 3 to 6 months about burden? And a burden can look like this. When you were a child, your mother would go to the room and say, clean your room, Raphael, clean your room. And then you were busy playing with toys. She'd leave and come back 10 minutes later. Raphael, I told you to clean your room. Okay, mom, okay. And you were really into your Ken and your army guys and you're really having a good time. She leaves. She comes back much sooner than the last one. I told you to clean your room. If you don't, I'm taking those toys away for a week. And you say in your head as a kid, dang, gone. Why can't she do it? That's a perception of burden. Why do I have to do it? Why can't she do it? Right? And so when you ask your client, what were you thinking 3 to 6 months before this pain? Especially if it's on the left side, female or mom, they could have been going through is a perception of burden at work, or a sister, or a mom, or a girlfriend, right? And the body just simply responded, even though they were lifting weight. Another good example, feet are representing moving forward. They could have had a breakup and then they don't want to let go. They're reminiscing on some pictures or whatever. They're crying over like, oh, it was so perfect. And then a week later, they step off the curb and twist their ankle. It represents the support of moving forward. Ankles is support of moving forward. Feet are moving forward, and leg is support, like a legs of a table. So even though they're saying, oh, it was the actual stepping off the curb that twisted it, no, it was what they were thinking, and the body responded to it. The body was saying, you need to move forward, and you really are supported. The more you contemplate what you think you've lost, we're going to give you a cosmic 2x4 and make you move forward. Does that, you get that part now?
It does. And I watched one of your videos where you said limiting beliefs are like a tattoo.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So it's ingrained, it's embedded until somebody can come along and shift it. So just like the work the two of you are doing, when you start asking more questions about what their thoughts are, this is going to be so good for your business. You can understand, but you also have to understand. Now, you guys understand the parts of the body, the muscles, and all those other things. But you also have to take it one step further and understand what that body part represents. So pancreas is holding on to anger. And so they could say, man, I was laying in the tub and I had this pain right here in that area. And you're like, oh, and you guys can look up because there's so much free content out there. So look up what organs represent certain things energetically.
Mhm.
So when you find that they may have gallbladder is processing crap.
Mhm.
Bile, that stuff, right? And they may be struggling to process what they could view as, crap in their life, right?
Right, right.
Lower back is life's a pain in the back. Neck is life's a pain in the neck. What is it that they're experiencing through life that represents that they, are finding that, and back in itself is the past. I had a client come to me, she says, oh, my back. And I said, girl, I know I'm working on your subconscious space, but bring this body because I can help you with the physical body as well. Worked on her yesterday. I called her this morning. How you doing? She goes, oh, I'm shoveling snow. I said, I guess the back doesn't hurt anymore.
So true. And I wanted to go back to the example that you gave about the mom saying, clean your room, 3 times,
Yes.
because a lot of my curiosity in parenting goes to why is there so much urgency in you insisting for him to clean his room, right? Like what's going on with you that you feel so
Like you need
like
to
like
impose that,
right
control
like I
that,
need to impose this and you need to do it now
Yes.
do it my way.
either because I said so. It's like because if you step back and you zoom out a little bit, it's like what's the real urgency? I tend to
Yeah.
question everything, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
like then does that behavior influence the kid? And then where did that come from something else? And then if that is so, then are we all destined to go through this, endless cycle of
I
no one
love
knows what's
it.
going on?
I love it. So in my case, I was a single mom for a large part of my girls' lives. Dad was, in and out because, he just had to figure out what he wanted in his life, right? And so, in my mind, and years prior to the work that I do now, I was a director of sales. So I would have to look at everything to get to the end result through my day, week, or month. So I knew what I needed to do through that day. So I was one of the parent that would go in and clean your room and come back, clean your room, because I knew that the next thing we all had to go somewhere or do something. And I knew tomorrow we couldn't because we were going to grandma's. And, so it wasn't about control. It was about how my life was scheduled and I needed to have certain things. So unintentionally, I'm now causing a perception, a burden to them unintentionally based on what I was viewing my life in that day I needed to get with two little girls.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are all going to have limiting beliefs. As I was sharing about the perfect dad and what it represented and how it turned out to this woman trying to create relationships and couldn't fulfill that desire or need or the empty hold of unconditional love, right? So it's just a matter of going, hold on, what is in this for me? Instead of pushing back, going, stop everybody, you're all doing this, is saying, what is in this for me? Because it is in it for you to see it differently, respond differently, act differently, to manifest differently. So when we're going to say, okay, I'm in this relationship, and these are for some people that are listening because they're in these relationships and they're not letting go, and I wish it would change. Now you're outside of yourself, hoping and praying that somebody else will change when you're the one who needs to change. I was just talking to someone yesterday and she was hanging on and hanging on. And I said, now you're in a situation where he's ended it because he wasn't willing to change when I kept saying, you're the one who needed to change. Means stop accepting unacceptable behavior. Stop saying that this is what you want when you weren't getting your needs met. But what happens specifically at the very beginning of relationships, we have 3 months to set up what we want. Listen up, everybody. 3 months. If you want your partner to cook more, then stop doing all the cooking and then expect him to do part of it 5 years or even a year down the road. If you're wanting somebody to meet certain things that are your deal breakers, then why are you accepting? If you're saying that your deal breaker is that you don't want somebody who smokes, but then he'll smoke at the bars and he comes home, then you're accepting your deal breaker. So it's not a deal breaker anymore. You're hoping, oh, it's only at the bar, but it does come home and linger and it affects his health or her health, whatever it is. And so, because I'm thinking like, what I would think if I was in those
Right, right.
shoes. So I apologize, Raphael, again. So, uh, so when in those first 3 months, you do have boundaries, but those boundaries 90% of the time become fluid. And then now that they're fluid and you're in this relationship 6 months or a year down the road, and then you're like, why is that person doing that? Well, your boundaries became fluid. Now it's you, not them. I have heard so many people in relationships that will tell me here they are 5 years down the road and they're like, I don't understand. Now that I'm saying something, that person is saying, well, it's you, not me, because they never said anything. They kept it inside, hoping and praying that it would just shift and change, even though they saw it at the beginning. So they accepted it at the beginning. And now that they're saying it a year down the road or longer, the first thing out of the other person's mouth is, what's wrong with you? You're the one who's changing, when in fact, you're not. You never said anything. You set your own self up for failure.
I like the 3 month thing. What is it about 90 days that makes so many other things so powerful that inside of 90 days you can transform or change or observe behavior? What is it about that 90-day mark?
Yeah. So you're in that space of, I'm just going to be great and I want to show them how great I am, until you get comfortable. And it's in that comfort that you start, oh, I can start treating people differently now. May they start being nice to service providers and all of a sudden they get a little spicy and they're not so nice to them. And then because now they're relaxed, they don't have to show you a certain facade. And so now, and they'll start telling you, because people want to be accepted, right? And so we're going to show
People
you
want to be seen.
yeah, seen and accepted. So they'll show you their best facade. They'll show you what they want to show you to be accepted, to be loved, right? And then now that they're getting that what they're saying they want, their future dates and feeling love and a connection. And now all of a sudden the person will start saying, oh, I don't like that, or I want it this way, or, and then you're like, whoa, wait. So that's why it's really, really important that you really share who you really are up front, because by getting past that zone and then all of a sudden things start changing, you're like, well, wait, hold on, that wasn't the way it really was. You really want to be truthful and transparent. And it's not about being vicious or angry or mean, but it's about saying what you truly desire and want. So you get to the end result of saying that feels really great, or can I accept this, and this is okay. We do have to have an ebb and flow. If you're saying, I only want a partner that has one child, and they happen to have two. So it's okay to say, all right, well, let me have interactions with these two children. Maybe or unless you're rock solid that I want to have only one because I want to have my own one, then that's a boundary for you. Stick with it. I had a woman come to me. She said, I didn't want to be with someone who has little children, 3, 2. So she now is in this relationship, and it's a year later, and that's the number one thing she was telling me the whole time. And I said, but you accepted it. So you think that you're going to change? So if it was one part of accepting the interaction of the children, but if it was clear that you didn't want someone with small children, then why did you open the door? Because that's not going to change. Their height is not going to change. How many times they were married, anything like that is not going to change. So you set yourself up if you're thinking that somewhere in it was going to change.
Do you think that acceptance is identity based?
Identity for them?
Yeah, like when somebody, like if you have standards or boundaries, or your set of rules for what you're looking for, if you're accepting of things that you say you don't want, is that
Yes.
part of your identity?
So, but identity is created usually from experiences that you have. So, you've heard people say, that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you weren't born just that way of saying, I like this or I don't like that. It's all based on the experiences you have that generates your identity, right? So and I love that question, Raphael. That's a really deep question. I want to bring this to, like, I happen to be connected to a certain look with men. I love the way Italian men look. My clothes melt off. Girl, it's real. It's like, what? There's something about it, but that something is a feeling. Just like when two people are attracted to each other, they say there's just something about you. That can be a past life experience. That could be that my soul feels so comforting in what it is that I'm getting with you. I wouldn't call that identity, because identity is what we're showing the world we are. It's that inner soul level. Do you see the difference? Did I kind of help you
Yeah,
understand
and,
that?
and and I guess I was coming from the perspective of, if we have these rules, right, which we talk about a lot. Everybody has
Hmm.
rules for the way they do this or the way they do that,
Yes.
which are all arbitrary and made up, right?
Yes.
Inside of those rules, is there maybe a subconscious, which is why I use
Yes.
the word identity, is there a subconscious overwriting of the rules that says these are all written in stone, but I'm willing to bend on some of these, and
Yes.
then
Yes.
as a result of bending on them, you feel bad about it, but you had already almost like pre-written that you were going to go that route. And I guess my follow-up question would be, is that where self-sabotage lives? Is that where somebody gets, they meet the person, they lose the weight, they get the job, and it was everything that they said they wanted,
Yeah,
and then it has the one thing that they didn't want, but they
yeah.
go for it anyway, and then it all falls apart.
Yeah, because they think that one thing will change. Just like when people get into a relationship, one wants children, the other doesn't, then they stay thinking that, oh, it'll be okay. I love this person, is so perfect. This relationship is so perfect. Some may change where the one said that I don't want children, and then they are like, but it could take them 20 years, 30 years, depending on when you met them. I just watched a podcast yesterday. And this guy said that he always felt that he would be a bachelor, no kids. He was loving life, had girlfriends come and go, and that was perfect for him until he met this woman. He's 50 years old, and he said, and I'm now considering children. That may never happen to some, but it was this soul connection that he's like, this is something that I haven't had, this feeling from my childhood, because he had a rough childhood. And now he's getting something that his soul was calling for. So what he did is he owned that I'll never have it, this feeling of support, love, unconditional love, that connection, right? Because I never had it in my childhood. So I'm going to accept it. And then all of a sudden, these two souls connect, and all of a sudden, he's like, oh, I feel that. This is different. But sometimes people never get it, because what happens is that when you open up to think that curiosity allows you to step into different things, right? Once, sort of like the work that I do, if you have curiosity and you step into it, all of a sudden you can start accepting it differently. But then there are some other people, that's crazy. I'll never, no. But then they can't get out of the struggle that they're dealing with because they just want to have this barrier saying, that's just too much for me. I can't do that, right? So if you get to a place, and again, that's that internal, nothing else can change. Just because those two people met, it was his internal connection of like, I am now for the first time in my entire life feeling unconditional love that I never felt in this lifetime. Because he opened up. That was that internal. What was his trigger? I don't know. Well, I could, if I talked to him enough or worked on him energetically, I could have probably figured it out. And it was probably his life journey of what he was experiencing, how the world was changing. As I call the pieces of the puzzle, certain pieces of your own internal puzzle could come together to open up that small mechanism to say something that you say you'll never want could eventually trigger. But nobody in this life should be hanging on, hoping that someone else will get to where this guy got, that I watched that podcast yesterday, because it may never happen. You have to live you and continue to go through your cycle of what makes your soul sing and happiness and living intuitively, because that's where you magnetize all your more abundance, your fun, your great adventures.
I want to go back really quick to the roadblocks and the self-sabotage, because a lot of what we see that in a lot of what we do, right? Like people will do really well, but then the moment that, let's say, they hit a low on the scale, they have a bad day, right? It's
Yeah.
like a lot of the relationship stuff has parallels, but I think a lot of what we do is more like the identity work and like what makes somebody do something or not do something. And
Yeah.
based on your work and what you're saying, all of it is subconscious, and we believe that. I think that the subconscious runs the show for sure. But
Yes.
my question was, sometimes like there are a lot of examples that you're using like from childhood, and we try to recreate something or avoid something because that's what we felt at some point in our lives. Do you think that when we act a certain way or don't act a certain way, obviously because of the subconscious, is it because the subconscious is making us act that way, or are we trying to stay in that, like recreate it because it's safe? I don't know if that like makes sense. More
Yeah.
like, you
What
know
you're
what
saying, it's both actually, but
Okay.
not someone could be doing the recreation and someone could be, forcing himself or doing it. It's so it is both, but it's it's the person. So you said someone, the two of you are working with this client, they're doing really great, they're getting to a certain point, and then all of a sudden it's not so great, and then they were sabotaging. They could have the dad, again, I have to just base it off what my ex did to my daughter. They could have a dad, of saying get A's and you get A's, and I'll, if you do this, I'll give you this. And the moment that that parent or guardian either doesn't follow through or withdraws or changes, then the child will say, change isn't good, or if I failed one time, I won't get the prize. And so there is where that's a trigger of I got to that place where something you said or did, and it wasn't anything that, because you could be saying things like, you're doing great, and if you take this protein, and they missed one day, and then they're like, I missed a day, it won't work. And then they self-sabotage. It literally is something as simple as just that. So you're not going to be able to, because I see what you're doing, and that's great, because I'd be doing it too if I were you, of saying, how can I see my clients and when they're triggering, and how can I help them so that they don't trigger, and what would it be? But you would actually have to know their subconscious, the sort of the stuff that I do, and be able to feel their body shifting and how they're responding. Here's a great example. So I walked into my my stylist studio, and she had a client so she wasn't done. And it was at the very end. And my hairstylist was talking to her client and said, this product is really great. And as I was walking in, as soon as the client shifted, meaning I opened the door and I heard the hairdresser say, this this product is really great. And I felt that energy, because again, that's what I do. I felt the woman's energy shift. She shut down. She was like, oh God, I have to spend more money. So then here I am using my superpowers. I heard and watched all the interaction and felt it. So even though it wasn't part of who I was, I mean, I wasn't my interaction, but I was saying, okay, now I'm saying to myself, how can I help my hairdresser? Because I don't know if she saw it or not. So what she did, and this is the exact interaction, she said she didn't notice that the client shifted. She said that, and it was a very good product actually, because I use it. And she said, oh, the hairdresser said, this is what it'll do for you if you want it. And then the hairdresser started walking away to grab the charging machine because she was done. She said, I'll let you know this is what it does. So she used the word if, and then so she created doubt that the product would work, and that if she really wanted it, so she created doubt. And then the client had already shut down, right? She's like, oh shit, I got to spend more money. Sorry about that word. That's how I speak.
No.
And so then they finished the interaction. The client left, and I said to the hairdresser, sit in the chair and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. So then I told her, I said, this is what you're going to do. I said, client, the hairdresser knows that the continuous support that she needs to give her clients is home care, because by the time the hair comes back to her, she wants the hair to be more healthy. She wants because that's what the client is asking for, not just a haircut, but continuous support. So I told her, I said, put the product in the hand. Say, this is how you use it. You're just putting a dowel instead of you doing it. Say, put your hand out, put the little bit, put it in the hair so she can feel how it works. She can feel how it's going to feel in the hair. Because if it's going to be too greasy, the client's not going to like it. If it absorbs too fast, they might think it's not working. So let them feel it. And then tell them, and then say, as you're walking away, I can add that to the end. I can add that to the charge. So they can make the educated decision because they just used the product. They worked with the product. So it's about being able to be fully present. So you both being fully present to feel, you intuitively work with your client. So trusting what you feel as they shift. So if you're telling them to do one thing, you can actually feel that, are they really going to do it? You can feel them, their energy lower slightly. Don't doubt what you feel, because most of the time they'll say, oh man, I kind of felt that, but maybe I didn't. Because it can be so subtle that if you feel a slight pull down, that's like, ugh, they may not do it. You might be giving them too much homework. And then you can just respond, if I'm giving you too much homework, it's okay to say that. Or if you think you're not going to go through it, what is it that you feel like you wouldn't do it? Is it too much homework? Is it like you have to incorporate it into your lifestyle? So there's where you can actually talk, but you have to feel the shift. You have to be able to see how their eyes glaze over, or you see what I'm saying, getting at? It was the exact, that interaction with the hairdresser and her client, and the hairdresser missed the whole situation.
How does someone know if they're intuitive, and what blocks intuition?
Trust blocks it. Doubt, because remember I said you both, like I'm talking directly to the two of you. If you're feeling the subtle, but then you go, was that really? No, that's okay. That was so subtle. I mean, that's me. I'm being too sensitive. You've heard that too in relationships. People say, I'm being too sensitive. No, you're feeling it. Trust it. So that's a block in itself. You doubting your own self, right? And so I went to what was the first part of that?
How does someone know if they're intuitive?
Oh, we all are, but we doubt it too. We question.
What's the difference between being intuitive and fear?
Being
Like that
intuitive.
gut feeling, like, oh, it's a bad idea.
So, because they're doubting what they feel. So, when you feel something for the first time instantaneously, most people will doubt it, because they're like, well, what if? That's a doubt. What if I'm wrong? That's a doubt. Instead of just going with what they felt for the first time. You've had people, do you ever play with tarot cards or angel cards? There's so many neighbor. Have you ever played with them?
I personally haven't, but like
Okay. Have you
I've been
ever
around
had,
plenty of people that have.
Yeah.
perfect, because I was going to say, so you'll have them, they'll like, oh, look at this, and they'll throw out a card and like, oh my God, that was the answer. Let me try it again. That was their answer. They wanted to try it again. Why? You don't need to do it. You got to trust the first one.
It's like flipping the coin, right? Heads or tails. It's like, oh, let me try it again because
That's
we're getting
right.
it.
And that's how you can get even better intuitively, is that you have to trust the first feeling. So when you're saying the difference between intuition and fear, intuition is that first feeling and taking action on it. Fear is
Guessing it.
creating a doubt, right? Second guessing it, right? That's the major. So between the two of you, even if it's subtle, you don't have to see the client's eyes roll. You can feel their energy's eyes roll. When you feel, I'm getting a big hit on you, Lais. You see a lot more. You do. I'm getting a big hit. I can even feel it in my hands, and they're starting to sweat. So
That's
you're very
exciting. What are you
creative.
getting?
Yes,
Please share.
you're very creative. You're very creative. Hands are creation, and you have a lot of energy through your hands. And so you doubt these little subtle things, and they're so tiny with you. It's almost like a grain of sand. You're expecting it to be a little bit more, or wanting a little more proof.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to stop it. And those little grains of sand, I'm telling you, girl, you can change a lot in your business and in your personal life with your friends. You got a girlfriend that I'm picking this up. And here I am. This is how it is. So I want to help you change a little bit. Trust the grains of sand. The more you trust it, and let's say a perfect example, and I'm sorry, Raphael, I got to direct this to her.
You're good. You're good.
So when you trust a grain of sand and you do take action on it, if it doesn't work the way you want, please do not go into, oh, Terrie told me, Because remember back a few minutes ago, or I said to move into trusting everything, right? To trust everything, that no matter what, don't doubt it, because there's something in it for you. And for you to change this, because it's so subtle, these things that are so subtle, it's in it for you to begin to trust on such a deeper level that you have a deeper connection. I'm just going to use the word God, higher self source. You need that. But what you need is to trust more of the grains of sand versus asking for more clarity. You already have it, but you're just ignoring the grains of sand.
I love that.
Does that
Thank
make sense
you.
to you?
Yeah, for sure. I do that a lot. I'm like, oh, maybe it's just me. You know, it's like,
How much work
I love that.
do you think people should do in allowing some of that to come in? Like how much letting go do more
Yeah.
people, or how much more effort should they put into letting go so that they can kind of receive more?
Yeah. You know, I wish to think that we'll all get to the finish line in one of these lifetimes and say, I'm complete. Never, never, because our soul needs to continue to expand and grow, and we're on a conveyor belt of life. So there's no beginning and ending. It's just a continuous conveyor belt. So you're going to have things that you're going to say, I feel so much more completer in my life, meaning completely connected to the soul, that things are easier, I'm more happier, but you're still going to have that ebb and flow, the up and down. Raphael, you can't eat chocolate cake every day for a year and still think that it's going to taste amazing 365 days later. So you have to have that ebb and flow to say, feels so great in the light, and this doesn't feel so great in the dark. And that I know that I have to finely tune that I don't have to accept this unacceptable behavior. And now I'm going to move closer into the things, and I won't be attracting these type of people, but someone might still trickle in because there was something else in it that your soul needed to expand and grow with. That's an amazing question, but you'll never get to that completeness in any lifetime that you have, because you have to continue to expand and grow.
Love that.
What do you say to somebody who's on the edge of taking a leap toward making some of the changes that they feel they should be making toward whatever kind of transformation they're working on, whether it be leaving a relationship or starting a business or transforming the way they look physically, but they're just not taking the step, right? Like, what do you say to somebody who's listening or watching that's right on the edge there and they happen to get to this point?
Yep. Congratulations. I tell them congratulations because what they're doing is they're focusing on, I can't get to that point. But look how far they've come. Congratulations. Now, let's dive deep in this one little nugget, because what is happening is they'll look at it as being a complete massive mountain. So they have to reflect back on how far they've come. It's very interesting. I keep getting this flash of this one client. I have to tell you.
Go ahead.
So, because it's happened like 10 times now, because obviously I need to tell you. So I teach intuitive development. I teach this work. The questions you're asking, I teach all of these. And so she's about 4 months in, and she was having, like Lais said, she's having a bad day, and she thought, oh, I don't want to I'm going to cancel today's session. You know, Terrie's not. I didn't do my homework, and Terrie's going to think. And then she said to herself, no, Terrie's probably what I need the most. She lived intuitively. Yay, yay, yay. So we had our session, and she was saying, I feel like, I haven't done this and this and this and this. And I said, no, look what all you have done. Look at how far you have come. Just because you're having this moment, it's simply a trigger. And I said, and so let's talk through this. I helped her see things differently. And once she had this aha, like I said, this life is development. And as I stated, it's on a continuous conveyor belt, because she, like most people, thought it's an end, it's a beginning. It's an end, it's a beginning. No, you're just in this bubble that there's something in here that's keeping you from being able to take the next step. So in the case where if you are talking about a specific client or whoever, in this case, whoever's listening, it's like, okay, where in my life, and these are wonderful moments and these little bubbles to reflect back in your childhood. And I'm not talking about dad saying a specific thing. I'm talking about patterns of mom or patterns of grandma or patterns of a caregiver. So if you have a pattern, oh, I got another flash, a pattern. I had a husband and wife, and the husband had a dad that bought everything used, everything. But they had what they needed. They had a car, they had the house, but everything was used. So when it came to him and the money situation between him and the wife, he struggled to buy anything, quote unquote, new, because it had to have some history to it in order for him to feel confident and comfortable to utilize their abundance. And he felt uncomfortable. It didn't feel good. So it was simply a feeling that she wanted a certain thing, because this is what was happening between the two of them. She wanted a certain thing. He's like, it doesn't feel right. We're spending too much money, or whatever he was saying in his head to get to past the feeling. Once him and I worked together, I said, it was what your dad was showing you, that it's not safe to buy things new because now you're putting too much money out, because if you buy it used, you'll still have what you need. So it was just a matter of getting over that feeling, that hump, that everything is all safe, right, and good, because they made lots of money. They had a support. Now they were struggling until they came together with me. And it was about getting past the fear. They were actually getting ready to lose their business when they both came to me, excuse me. And then it was about clearing all her mom's stuff. Her mom was a truck driver. So where did she live? She lived on the road with the mother. And then her mother put her in compromising positions that made her feel like life isn't safe when you're alone. So there was all of this triggering back and forth, subconscious, that they never talked about, but it didn't show. It was just, meaning it didn't show consciously.
Right.
It showed subconsciously. You see?
Yeah.
So now so you see how something as dad buying things used, but they had everything they needed. But the feeling of him feeling not safe to spend all of that money. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. What would you say is the most impactful thing about the work that you do?
Whoa, didn't I just talk about many things?
You did. What would you say is the most impactful? Like for me, like I'll tell you, like when somebody fully transforms, like they not just physically, like when they go all in, when they step into that new version of themselves, when they start to dress different, when they really
Yes.
like
Yeah.
the most impactful thing to me is how much the relationships around them change, right? How
Yes.
much they're having more sex with their husband, or they're
Yes.
dressing differently, and they're more fun with their kids. Like your
Yes.
relationships change because you change, you transform for
Yes.
good. Right. So to
Yes.
me, that's the most impactful thing about my work. Like obviously
Yes.
there's many things, right? Your cholesterol can go down and there's a lot of things.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
But to me, like that really hits for me. Like that's impactful.
Yes.
Your life changed. The people around you got to benefit from it. For
Yes.
you, I'm sure there are a million things you can name that are impactful and that are powerful and that are life changing. But what do you think is like the most impactful thing about your work?
That I'm the catalyst to have the soul and the physical body meet as one. The perfect alignment, so that if when they're saying, I need, I want, I desire, and then me clearing the path of the things that were placed upon them and that they owned. And so when I bring it out and pull it out of the subconscious, then all of a sudden ease and grace and more money happens, and they're working less, and they're attracting that more perfect mate, and they can speak more of their truth, and so it's it's everything for me. Again, I'm a piece of their puzzle, but such a profound one that helps connect, I like plug in to the equalness of what their heart and soul and the body and the mind is saying they want, and now they're achieving it.
I love
If I had a
that.
mic, I would drop it.
I
Terry, where can people find you?
Oh, thank you so much, my beautiful friends. So Instagram, I'm Terrie Christine. I'm on TikTok, Terrie Christine. I'm on Facebook, Terrie Christine 333. My website will answer a lot of your questions. It's terriechristine.com. I also, you Google me. I'm on various different podcasts. I'm on 2 reality shows, Love and Marriage DC. I was on Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm all over the place because it's very important for me to help you understand exactly what I shared today. I love you both. I love everything that we
Oh,
talked
thank
about. I'm
you.
so honored,
That was
truly
amazing. That was
That was
grateful.
so
amazing.
good.
I will put all the links to all of that in the show notes. And for all of you that are watching, listening, make sure you do all the things that people do on podcasts, like, share, subscribe, ask questions. I will send them over to her if you have any questions for Terry, and leave them in the comment section. This was definitely one of those shows that I think people will go back and re-listen to, rewatch, because there was so much in there that they may have not even been thinking about when they started listening to this episode. So Lais and I thank you so much.
Yes.
Until next time, everybody, peace out.
Bye, guys.
Ta-ta.